Okay, so realizing that as I occasionally do, did not plan the stream in advance. Happens, and even more so, we've got the added information that there will not be a Roach Wiggle the next two Thursdays. Here I am. Boy, I am. I think I'll wait a little bit for some people to trickle in before I start preaching. It seems like there's a delay in when YouTube tells me there's folks and when there isn't. Oh, there we go. Hi, Tennyson, Anthony, Satchel, Jojo. Welcome, everybody, to the Roach Crossing, the Roach Wiggle, March 16th, one day before St. Paddy's Day. I am without my now iconic hat, as it is in the wash. Hello, Dylan Taylor. Hello. Good hair, thank you. I just got out of the shower. This has been all right. We're gonna have debate about gar lifespan here now. I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years for a gar, spotted gar, Florida gar, 10 years in the wild, maybe a bit less, 20 years. It's established. Is that captive or wild lifespan for a gar, Dylan? Bunklow Mimus, hello, welcome. I am just all over the place today. I've got some tea here, some nice lavender tea to help me sort of zen out. I'm not 16 like the age of consent for Alabama. Kyle, you should make some of us mods on the new Discord. Yeah, I guess I should. I definitely will before I go. I definitely will before I come down to Alabama. I gotta throw some people in there. I'm quite okay with it being kind of laissez-faire. I'm not exactly sure what the trajectory of the Discord channel is going to be immediately post-auction. Will it become the official Roach Crossing everything Discord? I can be upfront with it. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the time or the emotional energy to be a full-time professional Discord moderator. So I gotta be careful with this. Maybe it's in the cards for a year and a half from now. Hello, Ecosystem Engineering. Who else we got? Walrus, Russ, Aquarimax Pects, welcome. Ecosystem Engineering, I wanted to just say something really quick. As you know, your box was shipped earlier this week. I feel like I could have put more of some stuff in there. I was in a rush. I've had a bunch of boxes going out this week, and the Velosa were not on the piece of dog. It was just an inconvenience for me, and it really been crunch time this week, getting ready for next week. So I owe you something. Whenever you get something else from me, I'll have to send something else along in exchange for the glut of Hemithorsaustera Paleata you sent, and the springtails, which are still doing great. I think they've reproduced. They're eating fish flakes. I love that culture. Welcome to Gar Crossing, says Anthony. Making us must, so you don't have to worry about it. But I don't. If I have you guys do moderating, I don't want to be a hassle on it. But I don't want to put any undue responsibility unless you take pleasure in if somebody does something completely asinine, like obliterating them from the face of the earth. Even then, that one person who was kind of going off in there is like, oh, I just deleted everything from the bidding thing. There are characters out there. I respect that. There are lines not to cross, though. But yeah, I could go ahead and do that. Kyle, ignore my email and just answered here. You know how one would culture Polyxenus? They're all over up here. That's the bristle millies, right? I do have a culture of those going, actually, and they are. I think I sent some to Chain, but basically they I know the meme. Kyle and his high ventilation but they like high ventilation. Right now, though, since it's so dry, I do let the substrate get moist, and they have like a bunch of leaves and mulch and stuff to roam through. They really seem to just be kind of like detritivores of drier materials, and they've been doing well enough that I don't think I have to go out and collect more of them to try and restart a cult. I haven't really seen too many of them this winter, but I saw in the culture, but I saw one alive, and I was like, okay, that means that there's probably quite a few more than I would anticipate in here. I should probably, there's some Pyralis that got in there. I don't know if they're helping or hurting. They might actually be helping by like tunneling through some of the leaves and stuff in there, giving the Polyxenus something to eat. But so I might do a soft reset of the container, take out a good number of the Polyxenus I can find. But basically, yeah, you will not do well with them with any sort of consistent moisture unless there's high ventilation or dry air. They do not like that at all. They just melt. It's not anywhere in their genetic programming to tolerate that kind of stuff. Even the ones in Florida I saw, they're in like the dry palmetto in between the fronds and stuff like that, which I do need to collect those again. Come to think of it, eventually I'll do a Florida trip again one day, do a nice one and go crazy. Dylan says, please, I spend all my time on Discord. I take pleasure in wielding meaningless power over internet strangers, says Satchel. Okay, that's good enough justification for me to put a couple of the old guards in positions of power. But yeah, Pyralis are a blessing and a curse. I am relying on them quite heavily for a couple of mantids right now, and it's nice to have a medium-sized Lepidopteran as a feeder, but they can cause issues in some of my enclosures, and it's actually been kind of interesting figuring out when are they a problem, when are they not in some of these situations. One of the pros to them is if you have enough of them in certain containers, they will eat freshly dead roaches quite ravenously. And if I have to pick, if I want to fight a battle against phorid flies or against Pyralis moths, I will take the Pyralis every day of the week. So that's awesome. But then there's some things where it's like, yeah, they're webbing up the substrate too fast, and the roach or something in here is not getting what it needs because of that. So it's a delicate balance sometimes. Walsh says, do you ever see my pic of the blue Talatroides? I don't think so. I could use a refresh. Maybe it didn't come through in an email if you sent an email with that in it. But anyway, I do need to cover some administrative stuff off the bat on Discord. Was it in the server or was it in a personal message? Personal message is the way to go. Just add me as a friend. And obviously Roach Crossing on there. Epalampra number, something. Yeah, just go ahead and send it. But anyways, administrative stuff. So as it has been made known, there will be no Roach Wiggle next week. Unfortunately, I will be in, what am I doing Thursday? Wednesday, we're driving down. Thursday will be my singular vacation day, where I will be going to the beach in beautiful, scenic Destin, Florida, and 90% of that day will be hopefully breathing, which I need to do. But the other 10% of the day will be looking for some of that possibly undescribed Euthlastoblata, and maybe ivories there, and maybe some mollies. So Jihu is here. Nice. And yeah, we were discussing, toying around with the idea next week of actually doing a stream from the field. Just keep your eyes out for that. There probably will not be any lead up to it or anything. It will just be bam, it's live. Whenever Alan and Angela and I decide to do that, it'll just happen. There'll just be a stream pop up, and obviously it'll go in past live streams, but nothing too formal, because I am trying to take it easy on the trip a bit. Kyle said he is taking Molly in Destin, Florida. I'm collecting Mollies. Hopefully, I actually don't really think I'll have time for that per se. With the way I'm going to try and budget the time, but who knows? Evening could fall, and maybe we'll be able to find like a back lot to a gas station that leads up to like a disgusting mud puddle that has a bunch of cool stuff in it, and that'll be the evening. I don't know. So, but primarily, yeah, the Alabama odds and ends. Did I bring up the flat millipede success last week? I can't remember if I did. I feel like I have to. It's my shiny new badge that I'm wearing. That look what I did type thing with a Sigmoria from Huntsville that I collected last year. It was one of those things where I caught it. I threw it into like a mixed enclosure. Had some Narcissus and some other stuff from Huntsville. And I was just like, yeah, just see what happens and see what they do, and kind of didn't really. I set it up kind of intensely, but not too much. I was just sort of like, if this, something happens, that's great. If it doesn't, whatever. And, where was I going with? So Sigmoria babies. And so they produced offspring. I murdered a couple of them accidentally while checking for the Narcissus in there. And I was like, okay, I hope I have enough to get a colony going, even though I think I accidentally squished 2 or 3 of them digging around. So now I'm just like hands off, and they've been growing just fine. And it's one of those situations where it's like, I think it's a failing upwards sort of scenario, because I'm wondering if the wood from Huntsville, like a little bit of scraps of it that I threw in there, had some mycelium on it, or if I didn't sterilize something properly, maybe it was like the underlayer had mycelium. I really don't know, but there is a thread-like mycelium that is creeping through the substrate, and when I look at it, I think, how could this possibly be like breaking anything like down? I'd like, how could this possibly be like doing anything? They're so like, it's so sparse. It's not like fully penetrating the substrate like I see with like a pleurotus or something. But whatever it is, I really think it's the key to making the substrate to a point that the Sigmoria really like, because they're doing very well. I haven't added any new material to the enclosure, etc., and they've been thriving and getting huge. They're about a little over an inch now, and I would think that maybe they have 2 or 3 more molts till adulthood. So what I really want this to work out. Everybody's been clamoring for flat millipedes, and everybody's, it's been like, oh, it's the temperature, it's the this, it's the that, it's the whatever. And so now I feel like if they just get to adulthood, they're in the same setup that I threw the wild caught adults into, they will reproduce in there. So what I did was I put about 1 inch of hardwood pellets, just raw hardwood pellets, on top of that, and I'm going to see if that mycelium is going to creep up and colonize that. And if it does, that is perfect, because then I will have cultured it continuously, and I can continue to subdivide it. I can ship it out for identification, see what it is, and maybe, just maybe, this fungus or related fungi could be the key to getting good, consistent reproduction out of North American flat millipedes. But the Sigmoria is a start. It's also it's a good perk that it's a very pretty species. I can't remember what the adults look like exactly. Guess I could go on INAT for that area and see records from there and see if anybody's ID'd them the species. Let's see, just so I can sort of get some pictures out into the void. Where's Huntsville in Alabama? Oh, it's all the way up there. Sheesh. To realize how far north in Alabama was. So this is it's an image that needs ID of presumably the same species of Sigmoria as the one that I've bred. Actually, that's not a very... It's a pretty picture, but I want to find one that's more flattering. Surely somebody with a fancy camera has been through that area and got a nice, scenic, very, very beautiful and easy to spread the cultural zeitgeist of somebody captive breeding these of whatever. We'll just go with the original picture. It seems like they might be Sigmoria latior, which is the species that I had originally thought they would be or could be. Slap that on there. Is there any way you could describe the mycelium you see? Yes, it's very thread-like. It's white. Again, when I see it creeping through the substrate, it's so sparse that I feel like, how is this doing anything? You know, I guess there could be like tons of microscopic. I think there was a hyphae spreading through stuff and doing decomposition that way. But just seriously, just looking at it, I'm just like, how is this impactful? You know, there's a good amount of it in the enclosure, but actually, ecosystem engineering, I think you have my number. I actually took a picture of the enclosure. If you would like to send me a text and see the mycelium, I'll send the picture that I have. Hunts Vegas, says Satchel. Remember to hit the like button if you haven't already. Thank you, Russ. Thank you for that very important information. I guess this is also a good time to let everybody know that I have promised what is the equivalent of my firstborn son to Kai, because a couple of days ago I asked him to do promoting for the auction yet again. And Kai, as we all know, is very competitive and loves to flex. And I told him that if we could get the Discord to 100 people by the auction time, that I would give him the largest pair of Dorcas titanus castana color that I produced. And this is like my first babies out of ones that I produced that are now maturing. And I have this male that's like 2.5 or more inches long, and it's a pupa, and it's going to be huge. It might be one of the biggest beetles that I've ever seen, or definitely the biggest live leucanid I've ever seen in person. I am pretty sure. The thing's huge. And so I have sold its soul to Kai in exchange for promoting the auction. I'm sure that he will be no, not that firstborn son. No. Kai will not get Victor. I'd eat it. More like Victor will eat you. Harpalus eggs. Oh, that's congrats, Tennyson. Harpalus. That's that's those ground beetles, right? The purple, not the purple ones. That's another one I must be thinking of. Yeah, congrats. Let's see if you get the larvae to adulthood. Michael Hare, good evening, and Les. Let me read your comment here about the commercial Hinge. I do not use Hinge proper. I use bulk Pleurotus that I get on discount, and I've been using that, and it's been working wonderful for like all my leucanids. Millipedes tend to like it, some more so than others I'm finding. Actually, I'm thinking this is going to be my first painstaking undertaking after Alabama and after the auction. I'm probably going to switch all my Chicoblis over to outdoor compost and leaf litter. I'm just not getting the reproduction out of them on the Pleurotus that I thought. I mean, they at times on this, they have done really well, but for some reason right now, I'm just not really, and it might have been, as you all know, I neglected my my millipedes pretty hard last summer. It's not the case anymore. but that might factor into it. But I just remember having really good results back in like 2018, 2017 using leaf litter and compost and stuff. So I want to try that again and see if I can really bump things up. June 1st is the shipping date after the auction. So yes, I have tried it with some of the flat millipedes, urids. They seem to like it, but I'm finding more and more that urids really like the wood after it's just been completely processed by other things. They'll eat through it while it's actively colonized, but they really seem to like it after stuff is sort of like broken it down already instead of actively breaking down. Who goes through a bag of dog food faster, Victor, or all the bugs? All the bugs. Well, it's not just the bugs. It's also the fish, and the rodents also get dog food. So yeah, they go through. I think I buy Victor a new bag of dog food every 3 months. I think a 50 or 60 pound bag of from large breed adult, and all the other stuff goes through the other dog food. Just like I think I have to buy more dog food at least once a month of the huge Country Squire from Menards, which the price has increased. Sucks because I obviously the thing I've been saying for years is buy the cheapest, biggest bag of dog food, and now it's like I think it's still technically the cheapest and the biggest, but it went up. So but yeah, I am finding out that the old rodent bedding, the old guinea pig, house mouse, African soft fur project bedding is probably the best thing for all detritivores after it's been outside and sat for a couple of months during like weather that's above 50 degrees during the day. It's hands down everything just devours it and loves it for as far as detritivores. And it is honestly a good, and it's pine. I use pine bedding for all that too, but it just, you don't have to be afraid of pine once it's broken down. Of course, the mice are peeing and pooping in it constantly and occasionally mauling each other to death in it. And so it gets my brain gears turning to maybe when I move, actually put more time and effort into raising more mice and soft furs, because it's another thing to sell, but almost exclusively so that I can produce this quality compost to then sterilize and use for bug food or sell. It's kind of funny how that works out. And yes, Victor does get mostly raw. Well, not mostly raw meat. It's like more like every couple days I'll throw him like a thing of spare ribs, or he'll get like chicken, or he'll get scraps, or all kinds of other stuff. I'm not very strict with what I do and don't let him consume. It's basically like no grapes, no chocolate, no coffee, and I even say no garlic. But he does love when I put garlic powder, garlic salt on like food that I cook. So I've even gotten lax on that, and I think it's probably just the raw garlic and onions that are very toxic to dogs. A lot of stuff you denature so many things just by cooking things. Tennyson says more of my actually Walrus has got a big pile of rotting mulch out back. I got to try and use some for peat food. Half of it's red here though, which sucks. Again, as long as if it starts getting broken down by things, you don't really have to worry about what it was for the most part. And again, like I said, I'm using straight pine. All kinds of things are found in rotting pine in the wild, and again, it's been out there, and the water leaches stuff out of it, and it gets colonized by worms and isopods. And last year there were probably thousands of Euphoria in my compost, Euphoria Inda larvae. And I got to get some Kai this year. I got to do my annual failure with them. And actually, I should really do is rake the stuff back and summon the chicken swarm over and let them go crazy, because that's like, it's like homesteading dream there. In fact, if there's anything, it's a good motivation to try and at least keep Euphoria Inda going for another going in captivity, or at least in my possession, until after I move, because then I can seed them into the future property, and they'll always be there to be detritivores and to be turning the compost into protein for the chickens and stuff. So yeah, a lot of things to think about. Tennyson talking about his Dipteropterum henstromi ooths just hatching. Yeah, I think I got a restart of those from TJ a couple of months ago, and they're very quickly getting to the point where I no longer fear for a collapse. Again, I wrote about this in the Roach Care Guide, and it just proves more and more every day that if you can get a colony to high density and high productivity, and you don't crash them by neglecting them, by not feeding them or not watering them, or a pathogen or something doesn't get introduced, a lot of them will just continue persisting. Even if your husbandry would have killed a smaller colony of them, that allele effect and whatever else is going on is just so strong. Maybe their gut microbiome adapting is just so strong. My best example of this at the moment would be my Loboptera decipiens, where I had them in a bigger setup in the basement, and they were doing doing all right for a bit, and then they were just trickling off, and I think I was down to maybe like 15 of them, almost adults, and I was just like, I gotta salvage these, and so I brought them up here. I put them in one of these bins, and now there's it's probably a year later, maybe a bit less than a year later, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll never lose these. I'll never lose this culture ever again. So that's where I'm hoping to go with the Dipteropterum. But I think that they like warm. They like warmth. Pretty good amount of warmth too. I vaguely recall a Roach forum post of the person who collected them, and he did like a temp gun at like the ground where he collected them, like the leaf litter, and I want to say it was between like 83 degrees and 93 degrees Fahrenheit, wherever they were collected. I think they're an African species, so makes sense that they'd want to be warm and not cold and stuff. Jehu says, you think you can keep it with wood roaches? I'm in the process of finalizing my analysis of proper Cryptocercus captive breeding, and every day I grow more and more suspicious it hinges on having that brown rot wood that's been broken down by certain species or under certain conditions. There's a paper, I think it was somewhere in Asia, where they were rearing one of the Asian species, or where I don't think they were specifically rearing them. They were doing like an analysis of the behavior or something, and they have color pictures in there, and they've got the adults, and the adults are, they've got like their crudely formed ooths or line of eggs, I guess, and all this other stuff. And they've just got that brown rot wood in with them. That's what they were giving them. They weren't like giving them anything additional. It's presumably what they collected them out of. And so then the next question for me is, yeah, I could keep breaking my neck and going out and collecting wood that perfectly matches what they need. But the next level I need to get to is, how do I take the hardwood pellets that I buy at Menards, and how do I turn those into Cryptocercus food reliably, is what I need to do, because then that opens up their husbandry and keeping those species to everybody else who may not live in a climate where you can go out and collect that wood, or may not live in an area, or a billion different things. So what fish are eating dog for? Everything. Literally everything. All the live bears I have, the Corydoras and stuff, and are eating just the dog food. It's pretty crazy. All my snails, the Heterandria formosa, are all eating it. If they don't eat it, then it gets eaten by the midges and the ligacete worms and stuff that are in the tanks, and they get turned. Obviously, it gets turned into fish food either way. Yeah, in some ways, Kai saying that everything eats dog food, like Like, I know, Kai, you and I butt heads about, like, stuff like that sometimes, but, like, yeah, man, sometimes it's just like that. It's like everything eats dog food a lot of the time. Your urids are pretty hardy on just neglected old bins. I've noticed. I don't think they'd be comparable. Corn-based cocaine is what dog food is. Let's see. Gotta go up here and see. Organism food. I love it. This must be life form food. Dog food with a side of Missouri monkey chow. Oh, I haven't heard of those lab diet chows in a long time. Oh, I have a funny story about that, actually. So the feed store I get all my feed from, it's a mom and pop-esque place. It's actually, there's still one here in Livonia because there's enough people that have goats and chickens, and they feed the deer and they feed the birds and all this other stuff in their yards. And I don't know how this happened because the guy, he's not that old. He's got to be maybe in his 50s, 60s or whatever. And they see me all the time. And then I come in and I, rattle off my list of stuff that I always get. But for some reason, this one time, I told them I needed guinea pig food. And they load it all into your car and stuff. It's a great place called Chap's Feed Store if anybody here is in Southeast Michigan. And I get home and I go to unload my stuff. And I go to grab the bag of guinea pig food. And I noticed that it wasn't guinea pig food that he sold me. It was mini pig food. And so I had a bag of mini pig food for a while. I was like, what am I going to do with this? Like, this isn't dog food. I can't feed this to roaches, stuff like that. I mean, sure I could, but it was still like, it was just one of those situations. Like, what, mini pig food of all things. It's like a sitcom scenario. I said mini guinea pig, not mini pig. So I think I ended up feeding it to the chickens. It was small enough pellets that I could do that. Cryptocarchus X Flat Millipede prison camp coming soon. Well, the Sigmoria are pretty happy, so we'll have to see how the cryptos are doing. I did for the Garcia eye that Kai was kind enough to give me. I did go out and get some stuff of their preferred rotting stage. My punctulatus were doing well on the fresh pine pellets that I did let sit for a while, and then I added them to it, and I think it did go into brown rot, and that might be why they're alive and still doing so well. So, oh yeah, I will never lose these, said every hobbyist. South African species, Dipteratrum, as I suspected, yeah. So I don't know if it'll work for Cryptocarchus, but my Eleotes and Blabberus love that stuff. Love which stuff, Tennyson? Exotic Wilderness, hello, a little late. Hello. Good to see you. Pig slop bag. Pachy Desmos. Josh Suds any Pachy Desmos crassicutus. Now I did get babies from the Pachy Desmos I collected last year in Alabama. The problem was that the what are those little isopods? Myctoniscus medcovi, or whatever they end up actually being, infested the substrate, which I also collected with the Pachy Desmos, and thus outcompeted the baby Pachy Desmos rapidly. So I think Alan was gonna sell me his Pachy Desmos captive breds or something, or I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth again. I think you were offering them to me, but if not, I'll just collect some Pachy Desmos while we're out there again. But from what I've seen with Alan's setup with the Pachy Desmos, is one of the most important things is having enough humidity for them to build their. This is very important, everybody. They have to make their poo cells for molting. I was tempted to call them poople cells for the pun. I guess I could still go ahead with that and call them poople cells. They're poople cells, which are like they're cupped. They make them out of. It seems like they make them entirely out of their droppings. And I don't know if this is how they are in the wild. I feel like I've seen a couple of flat millipedes make cells like this before in the wild, but there's a little hole at the top, either for them to crawl out or for gas exchange or for something or other. So it seems that they're probably picky about exactly how they make their pupal cells, and they were making in Alan's pictures, they're making them all over in the container and like even attached to each other. So it's probably less about the space and stuff, and more about having the conditions that allow them to properly form them, like having good humidity and making sure that whatever they're eating, they're able to excrete it and make the plaster of poo-rous. I will continue with the poo jokes all night, I swear. Around themselves before they molt. So that's why, if somebody were to throw them in a regular millipede setup on like coconut fiber or something, and there's some dry crinkled leaves on the top and whatnot, and like a chunk of wood, they probably would not be able to get much out of that. They really have to kind of like swim through the material and be able to make their chambers and stuff in there. So it does not seem that difficult. As Alan knows, it's just time consuming. They don't grow terribly fast. That's fine. They probably grow faster than a lot of spirobolids. You get Spirostreptus species 1. It's an absolutely beautiful millipede, but like you could be waiting several years, like almost the amount of time you'd be waiting for a gigas to mature to get your Spirostreptus to adulthood. In my experience, I actually have one. I took it to the expo last Saturday, and that female is, gosh, I swear I remember the thing being alive in 2018, and it's still alive and kicking, and it was an adult back then too. I swear that thing's been with me for so long. But like that's what people want in pet millipedes. I'm surprised they aren't more popular or something like that. But anyways, yes, I guess they grow fast in something like a Spirostreptus species 1. But Ecosystem Engineering says, I've had a lot of trouble increasing numbers of Balta Vilis. Now that there are plenty, I decided to watch them for a while. They're absolutely vicious to each other. There's a lot of missing limbs and what appear to be whole chunks taken out of them. That sounds like you may need to add something to the enclosure. It's time to flex. Also, everybody, I am officially out of slots in this room. I'm debating getting rid of the only piece of like decent furniture or like office-y furniture that's in this room, other than the desk and the printer in the this black cabinet I have here, and I'm almost ready to buy another one of these wire shelves off of Amazon that will fit just right there, just to do my springtails on, because I'm out of space. But anyways, we are now stacked 3 high up there. It was at 2 high before. It is literally up to the ceiling, as is that one. And I need more space, guys. But anyways, this is the Balta Vilis, the vile yellow cockroach enclosure. I'm trying to see what way I can show it off to maximize the density, portrayal of the density here. Maybe I should close this window so there's no reflection from that. So yeah, gotta lift the little skirt there. Woo. Breezy day. See if the camera will refocus. It should. I should also clarify the reason they're completely out of all food and. Come on, this thing's gotta focus. It's in your face. It's in the face of the camera. There we go. How about that? Let's see if that gets it to focus. That seems almost focused. How about that? There we go. That's better. So I estimate the size of this colony is probably about 500 total. I guess it could be approaching like 1,000. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'll water and see if that can get some activity going on in here. Crap. Maybe that'll do something. Oh, yeah. I actually watered last night in here, too, so everybody's just thirsty. Actually, what's the humidity? 41%? Not bad. Not bad. Stop eating millipede food, Kyle. They're starving. It could be sugar. That's why I've been loving those fruit jellies. Come on, we got focus. Come on. Come on, fancy camera. Got all these young people shoving their buxom bits in front of the camera and it focuses automatically, but then I go to show off some cool roaches and the camera's just like, nah. Come on. Now, if I just shove it there and leave it there for a second. Anyways, so as I struggle to get this thing to focus again, as I jinxed myself. Yeah, that's pretty good. Anyways, yeah, so this is the Balta Vilis vile yellow cockroach enclosure, but you can see just how many there are, and everybody is intact. I don't really see anybody. I mean, sometimes there'll be an adult or two that'll mature with messed up wings, and it's just honestly, it's just there's so many of them in here. I don't even worry about it when 90% of the other adults are completely fine. Fed them some honey and they went crazy. They attacked each other. I saw one take a bite out of the rear of another, and at least 3 nymphs were eaten. Jeez. Oh, man. So I kind of want to get them. How big did they get? They're about, what's that, like a little over, maybe like 3/4 of an inch or less than that. Maybe like a bit over half an inch. Very easy. Another one of these species that's sort of neglected in terms of its potential. Could be used for feeders, for all kinds of things, but obviously the climbing and flying is a turn off to a lot of people, even though you can feed a lot of mantids with these guys. So, but anyways, yeah, I just want to show that off. The Balta Vilis. I think I started with maybe 7 of those from TJ back in before Arizona, and now it's up to that. These little the cockroach the taxonomic revisions are screwing with me because I can't just say ectobiids, but these non blabberoid. I think it's still blabberoidia. Non-blabberoid roaches can be quite something under certain conditions. Euchirus longimanus. I'm going to look that up right now just to see what that is. Oh, that's a nifty beetle. Man, that's sexual selection on a whole other level, man. Let's see. Walrus says I had a Polydasmus make a cell for eggs out of wood. That reminds me, I want to collect some Hurricane Creek Pseudopolydasmus and some other stuff to work with again. What happened is I had a nice culture on clay. Nobody stone me. I had a nice culture on clay that was a big mix of some Alabama stuff last year. I had and actually some Tennessee stuff. It was like I am making too many containers. I am so done with this. I just want to put things into a container and see what works. So I threw some Pseudopolydasmus and some springtails, and I think it was maybe Ligidium elradii into a container, and everything did really, really well. And I got a bunch of Pseudopolydasmus offspring, and I still have a good number of them in there. And Ligidium elradii were doing fine. And what happened was, for a while, they were out of 5.5-gallon lids at the local pet store. And so one of the tanks I deprioritized making and getting a lid for was my bumblebee millipedes. And so I had them next to the this Ligidium, etc. tank that I had no lid on also. And some of the bumblebees ended up crawling out of the one tank and into the other one. And so over time, they've been kind of pushing everything else out of there. And so now it's like, well, I can just collect more Pseudopolydasmus. I'm not going to prioritize completely redoing this. And I already should have moved the Ligidium elradii out of there. So now it's just a matter of just kind of watching it burn. And I'll probably sterilize it and just throw the new set of Pseudopolydasmus in there. Why can't all millies live through neglect? I know. Why I'm just going to focus on Desmosites and ditch other flats. What are those? Those are the yes, those guys. The dragons anthropomorph, if I can find a seller providing healthy specimens. How warm do the Polyxenus like it to be? Think they'd be fine kept slightly cooler? Probably. I collected my current colony in March or April last year. Maybe it was April. I could go and collect more right now. They're just under the bark of the sycamore in the U of M Dearborn parking lot. So I don't think they really care too much about temperature, but I don't think you'd see much reproduction under 60 degrees, I'd imagine. Can't wait for April to order the Blabrus giganteus from you. Yes, we are rapidly approaching good non-winter gear shipping weather, which is nice for me because, boy, do I love throwing bugs in a box with that packing or wrapping. Not wrapping, it's painting paper, and just shipping them off and forgetting about them. Nothing beats the feeling of not having to cut insulation and do heat packs and stack containers just right so nothing's touching the heat pack and all this other stuff. Did Kyle beat up Victor? That's what it sounded like. No, he's happily outside. He got a whole pork rump roast before the stream, all to himself after we went on a very long walk, as we usually do on Thursdays. Tessa asked, what kind of fabric has that been mean to get some muslin? I think it's a heavier duty muslin fabric. Altered Pants says, cute roaches. Yes, I do. The non-blabberoid roaches are quite something. It is both annoying and very fascinating how many of them look almost identical but are in vastly different groups of roaches. Like the Dipteroptera males look just like a Simplos male and just like a Parcabletta male, unless you sit there and you look at them really closely. But it's just interesting how they just all this roach form, just this like really roachoid form, and they're all just like converging on it or just never lost it. How large are they compared to Hanstromi? The Balta Vilis they're noticeably larger than Dipteretrum. A lot of it's in the breadth offered or the width offered by the wings, the full wings on the adult Vilis. Also need to get some Polydasmus getting killed all their babies on accident last year, then killed the adults. Yeah, I like how it's nice that I feel like you can tell when people are en route to success when they know exactly what they did that killed everything, and so you can you prioritize avoiding doing that again in the future. Josh Suds asks, how big is your largest gigas? She's probably, I'm gonna pull up the eye ruler here to get an accurate number. Probably about 11 inches long. Probably. The ones that I've reared have not gotten nearly as large as the average wild caught size, but they're still like, you would not look at it and be like, oh, this is small, I don't want this anymore. So Dylan Taylor Giganteus gang. Tennyson says, anything special I need for summer shipping, like a cool pack? Don't want to kill all the Mazama I ship. I have never used a cool pack ever, and I have definitely had more deaths from shipping in cold weather than in hot weather. But that's the advantage of ventilating things, is instead of stuff steaming up and cooking, the steam just leaves the container and the bugs don't get cooked. So I don't usually have any problems shipping stuff, even to very hot places during the summertime, because of that. Do you still have Gideon radii? I do still have a couple of individuals in that Pseudopolydasmus tank, but I'm definitely going to prioritize collecting a fresh batch this upcoming Alabama trip. Even if it's just a dozen, I feel confident with that. They seem to eat almost exclusively leaf litter. That's what you find them in. And of course, they do eat some fish flakes and stuff like that. But really was a good combo having the Pseudopolydasmus and the Lygidium. I wonder, and you know what? Speaking of that, that was not the Pseudopolydasmus that I found with the Lygidium. I vaguely recall finding some with them in Alabama. I definitely was finding Ischnoptera derapeltiformis with them in Alabama. But in Tennessee, where my Lygidium CF blue ridgei come from, which I do have a good culture going of, they are in their own separate enclosure and they're doing very well. That's where I found the Pseudopolydasmus that I threw in with the Lygidium elradii. So a very natural pairing is Pseudopolydasmus, whatever the species is there in Jellicoe, Tennessee, and Lygidium species. And I think that Kai and Sams can vouch for maybe getting annoyed when I was sitting in the drainage ditch in Jellicoe and I was like painstakingly going through the leaf litter and trying to find like these isopods, because I have been to that rest stop in Jellicoe pretty much every time I go south. So it's getting up there on the number of times I've been there, maybe like 10, like so much so I don't even remember how many times I've been there. And I've never seen those isopods there. That was my first time finding them. I was digging. I mean, there are plenty of introduced isopods in that little ditch where all the leaf litter accumulates. There's Trichelopus and I think Silisticus and a bunch of smaller ones. But that was my first time finding something other than those. And I was like, what are these? So I collected them. And they end up being, they're probably Lygidium blue ridgei. So yeah, I'm glad that I sat there and I was like, this is something different. And I'm glad that I bothered to collect them. So how are your weird Scaber lines doing? I really like the Sherber line, but I never want to drop like 80 on Scaber. It's going the other way with isopods. I can tell you that much, because since I literally cannot buy pure whiteout Scabers anymore, the Scabers, just continue to watch the site. And in the future, a lot of the Cubaris and Nasodil, etc., that people have been importing for years now and have been getting going, the prices are going to continue to drop, and all the Scaber that you no longer can buy with certainty that you're getting pure stock are going to continue going up in price. It's been kind of difficult for me to keep some of the Scaber in stock because of the demand, and obviously I don't. The last time I did isopod maintenance was mid-February. I think it was like, might have been even early February. So I'm actually due for that. I have to do that before I leave for Alabama. Otherwise, it will just snowball out of hand. So I have to force myself to do that both later tonight and then probably pick it up after doing outdoor stuff on Sunday and then again on Monday. So, but yes, I have a couple of things coming ready. Some nearly solid oranges from lavas, lava crosses, the rainbow mix I may release. I kind of lost my steam with getting the rainbows isolated, or at least in a form that I really wanted them to be. But I feel like they have enough color and enough character that I can probably release them in their current form and people will still really enjoy them. So that might be something I'll release at the auction. Beyond not just the rainbow mix, but the next step of refinement for that strain that I was creating. So Kai was napping on a stone table while I was looking for the Lygidium. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. The little things are the best. Yeah, that anybody, I can't remember, was it 96 South maybe or 75 South? I am terrible with freeway names, but it's the Welcome to Tennessee. Welcome to Tennessee rest stop station in Jellicoe, just south of Lexington, Kentucky, and that place is great for just skulking around and seeing stuff. Either we were there at a really good time the first couple of times I went there, or the dynamics of the area has changed. Maybe they spray insecticide or something now in some tangible amount or whatever. But it's still a great place to go and look in the leaf litter. There's it's where my colony of Parcabletta ohleriana is from there. I found one female when we were out there at night, and I think she had maybe about somewhere between 100 and 150 babies, and so that's my new colony of Parcoblata olleriana. I need to throw in the fridge or something. Get the long-armed scarabs from Joey Kyle. I mean, he can send me a message, an offer. Will Blackbush Gigantes be on the auction? Yes, there will likely be a Gigantes group at the auction. I don't know how many or of which strains, but they will be there. You think some smaller Lithobidae could be kept with some pseudoscorps? Maybe. That family is just gotta make sure you ID your species. I've had a myriad of them get introduced to things. The Lithobius, the bigger ones, will just decimate so many things. But sometimes those smaller ones, they're more detritivores, the ones that only mature at maybe like not even a centimeter. So, yeah, that's a hard call. Speaking of pseudoscorpions, Will and I keep playing hot potato with the Tyrannochelifer, and I think we're down to, I can't remember how many I told Will, it's like 5 or 6 or something. So I gave them to Will, and I said, try using the vile yellow cockroaches to feed them because they're very similar to Latiblatella. And Will's having a problem getting Balta Vilis going. I don't know. Again, Will sometimes produces things that I lose and gives them back to me, and sometimes there's just stuff that Will can't get going, and stuff I can't get going. But anyways, this doesn't seem to be a good fit as far as species go for Will. So he brought them back over a couple of weeks ago. I finished putting them into a full-size enclosure, I think last week. And so I'm doing what I had good success with before, where it's Sigabria springtails, and I actually started a colony of Latiblatella in with them, and I put a couple of Will's book lice over the dog food that I put in for the Latiblatella to feed on, and I'm going to hope that we're going to start getting some reproduction on a larger scale, because this is the most effort that I put into raising these Tyrannochelifer, because I know they eat newborn Latiblatella. They decimated my Latiblatella colony when I first put the two of them together semi-unknowingly back in like 2015. So I know that's one of their prey items for sure. It's just a matter of whether or not they're in a good enough shape to continue doing that. Maybe they don't like the dry air here. Maybe they'll do better when summer hits and it gets nice, or spring hits and it's more humid and all this stuff. So we're just going to see. This is the last Hail Mary to get them going. And honestly, for me personally, I don't know if it's worth any additional effort to keep trying them. If it's going to be so involved to do that, maybe something better I'm left to leaving to Will to try and hammer out the details of over time repeatedly. Walrus says, I've got some weird geophilimorphs in some of my bins from being lazy sterilized, so they don't seem to do that much. I would like to raise some geophilimorphs. Occasionally Will and I find them around, he'll offer to me, and every time I'm just like, I'm not ready for those today. I'm not ready to do that today. But if I could find some of the species at U of M that live at the organic garden that seem to be primarily soil dwelling or living in the compost, I think I'd be willing to give them a good go, because it's like there's a good chance I can throw them in a container of dirt and they'll thrive. That's basically what it comes down to. Lithobius have destroyed multiple millipede colonies of mine, maybe Geophilus or Stragamia, says Ecosystem Engineering. Jihu says, have a good night, Shaggy. I'm going back to work. Have fun, Jihu. Yeah, so I feel like there was another thing I was going to bring up here. Anyways, also, for some people in the Discord, I'm probably not gonna be on there too much, as I haven't been getting ready for Alabama. You can always request my phone number via an email. I'll still be checking emails up until like the end of this week. And for the purpose of, if you have things you'd like me to collect when I go collecting, let me know. I'll keep an eye out for them. and try to grab them for you, because I know how it is if you have very niche invertebrate interests and you can't quite find somebody to get this thing that you're really looking for. So it's I would like to offer that to all of y'all, that while I'm down south, let me know some things that you're really looking for. Maybe there's overlap with what I'm looking for, which is even better, but there may be some things that I'm just not naturally inclined to grab. Like last year there was that don't remember the genus. I never committed it to memory. There was a shiny green boring beetle or something. Not boring as in not interesting. It definitely was the exact opposite of that, because one of them that Will tried to catch to give to me, it bit his hand and he dropped it. But it was something that TJ really, really, really wanted, and so I know now, hey, if I encounter this thing and I know that it's not like a Bupressid or something, I'll definitely grab it, and somebody will want it. So we're going to be spending a day in Destin, Florida. That's not really going to be a collecting day, but who knows? I could go to pull back some bark to find the Euthalastoblata, and it could be covered in springtails or book lice or what have you. And then going to be going up into central-ish Alabama, where the bulk of the time will be spent in a variety of habitats. So you bet your sweet Biffy. Temnoscelia. Yeah, that was funny. TJ may have had a pair if Will hadn't grabbed the thing and it bit him. And I just remember, I remember seeing him turn his headlamp over to me and be like, Kyle! And I'm like, Will, what? And I remember him turning to like come to me with it like in his hand, and then I saw like his headlamp like flail or whatever, and I think he went like, ah! As it like nipped him or whatever, and he flung it. It happens. I might try and go to that rest stop again, because there's a tree hole that had a bunch of moth flies and fleas and fun stuff in it, that maybe I'll bring a nice vinyl glove and grab some of that dank gush at the bottom of the tree hole and try and get some of that the really fun stuff established. So Bishopella, let me look that up again. Shoot me an email if you have my number. If you don't have my number, request it via email. If you're a cool boy, boy being gender neutral with an I, of course, I'm probably inclined to give you my number to contact me, and if not, just send me a list on via email. Bishopella, isn't that the tiny harvestman we usually find, Alan, or Satchel? Looks like it. I know we found a couple of those. I am also looking for Anomerous, and that's another thing from Auburn I need to recollect is Anomerous, and another thing Lithobius killed. So the Anomerous that I had collected, because I put in some of the wood I collected with them without sterilizing, and the Lithobius. So, and then hopefully some Anomerous from Hurricane Creek, because they might be a different species or actually a different genus. So, so that's I will, if I am able to respectfully collect Anomerous from Alan's spot with at a degree that he is comfortable with, then I may put some up for auction as well. That would definitely be a good thing to recoup some of the trip costs, which I am always looking to do. But it is one of Alan's playgrounds, so I don't want to step on any toes. So, but yeah, so Tennyson, yes, shoot me an email or a text or whatever, and I usually grab those. We usually collect them for Will, or one of us usually has a flight of fancy for preferring them when we come across them. So I usually do collect those when I find them, but I will keep that extra in mind for you, Tennyson. So let's see. I feel like I would like to wrap this up, because I will probably be slaving away in the Isopod mines tonight. I have a busy day running around Ann Arbor tomorrow. I have to go drop some stuff off at Kai. I have to go meet up with an old friend. I have another person I'm getting some locality scaber from tomorrow. Actually, I don't know if they want me to mention their name. I don't know if they're under non-disclosures or anything like that. But this individual is now working for one of the larger terrarium herpetocultural supply companies, and is, I think, going to be consulting them and maybe guiding them in product design for some invertebrate enclosures, because as we all know, this hobby is growing very, very, very fast. So we may be doing some collaborations on that and seeing if I can advise on them making not terrible invertebrate enclosures, because you go to a store and now they've got all this insect vivarium or something like that, and they've got, they got this beautiful artwork. They found, I don't know if they had somebody do a photo shoot or if they're using pictures from a branch that's out of the United States, but they've got like protetia beetles on it, or they've got they've got all these millipedes that aren't in culture. They'll have like a big gigas crawling across it, or like a weevil, they'll have one of those blue weevils on it and stuff like that. And then you look at this thing and it's like, okay, the door doesn't have a good seal. So like if you try to put springtails in, they're going to crawl right through it. If you get slings from any sort of spider, they're going to crawl right through it. The mesh at the top is standard aluminum window screen. So if you try to put like fruit flies in there to feed something, they're going to get out, so you sit there and pick it all apart, and you're like, whoever designed this had no idea. Well, they had the vaguest idea what they're doing. They were probably like, we need you to design a thing for millipedes and for tarantulas, and we don't want to go too far into the isopod department, but like, this size of isopod. So it seemed like it was not a very well-informed design for some of these products. So I might be helpful into getting something that will be actually efficient and aesthetic. We'll see how that goes. May not go anywhere. So look down. There's pods to feed below. Kyle, do Blavish Giganteus like fish flakes? Yes, they're actually quite ravenous. And the more time that I work with them, I might do a special blog post or something on Giganteus and what I've synthesized over the years. Because at this point, I'm going on over 15 years of working with that species, and I haven't lost the colony. And I feel like I have some really valuable additional inputs on their husbandry. I would say that this last summer was probably one of the best years for my Giganteus colony, with how many offspring they produced and just the lack of random deaths and stuff like that. I feel like I'm really honing in on perfecting that. In Tennyson, actually, I tried to keep Lithobius too. They got into one of my, or rather, I put them into, because I didn't have proper protocol, into a German roach culture. And they went unnoticed for a while until you got a bunch of them, and it's like, where'd all the roaches go? And so they were doing great. I was like, all right, we're gonna make the best of this. I'm gonna culture Lithobius now. And so I, once I eradicated all of the Germans in there, because it's like, well, I don't want to, they're not going to try and culture Germans in this enclosure with the Lithobius. I'm going to try and put something that's a little bit more vigorous, or I'm trying to find a better fit, something that's more like, oh, if you want to raise this species, all of you budding young invertebrate keepers, don't use this pest roach species, use this other roach that's not a pest. And so I tried putting pallid roaches in with them, and they ignored the pallids, and all the Lithobius died. It was like, and it wasn't even like they died. It was almost as if by putting the pallid roaches in them, I had actively killed them by putting those in with them. I was like, come on. So maybe keeping Botella sani is a super duper easy way to breed Lithobius. Keeping that, maybe that would work over using at-risk Germans. So definitely going to keep them escape-proof and separate, though. They're not really good at escaping per se. They stay put in containers that they're put into. It's just more having your materials sterilized when you move things around. Platydracus project. A couple of them either died or were eaten by each other. Could have been males that mated or tried to mate and got eaten. I have not found any eggs, but maybe they're not into egg laying mode just yet. When I had raised them before, that was again catching wild caught individuals that then oviposited. this is different since they are wild caught individuals, but instead of catching them during a warmer season, I caught them in the winter and threw them in the fridge. So, Alan says, I'm trying to get rid of tiny lithobids in my beetle enclosure. Yeah, they're, I would like to, Alan, didn't you say most of them are native or something kind of like shocking like that? I've seen some pretty cool colored lithobids, maybe in Arizona, that if I go back there, I'll be like, yeah, why not? Why shouldn't I? Basically, in terms of collecting and culturing them. And I used to think that in a lot of ways that they were like a very useless bug, which is, something I should eat my words for that, considering I raise drain flies and such. But then I found out that the snakes in the genus Tantilla, which are adorable tiny little snakes from the Southwest, they love centipedes. They love them so much. When I was in Arizona this year and I was digging through the leaf litter, I was saying, this is the first time I've been to this spot off Dragoon Road or whatever, where there's been a ton of these little lithobiid centipedes. Like, that's interesting because it's been more moist in Arizona. And then I found 3 of these Tantilla snakes in there, and there was, there were a lot of larger larvae. There's some things that I collected. I'm waiting for it to close. But I was just sort of like, my brain was putting 2 and 2 together because Kim Wisman had told me that a lot of snakes really like centipedes, especially out west. This is just a big old, it's a snake-shaped packet of meat and nooch, my guys. There's a lot of nooch in those centipedes and moisture. He was telling me about, I think it was baby speckled rattlesnakes that just destroy like Scolopendra when they find them. And so I was like, there's a lot of centipedes. I've never found these Tantilla here. Maybe there's a connection. And so I brought them back, and I've been feeding them Lithobius out of my yard because there's just an endless supply of them in my yard. And they're doing great. And I'm like, maybe I could breed those snakes this way. And this would be so easy because the centipedes they'll produce some little babies when I throw them in to feed the snakes. And then, like, if any of the snake babies hatch out in the enclosure, they'll just have food waiting right there. So, yeah, I'm trying it. I've got 2 male and 1 female. Those, I think it's Hobart Smith or whatever, Tantilla Hobart Smithii. And we're just going to see what happens. As a matter of fact, the weather's been decent today. And I haven't actually. I brumated the Tantillas. I threw them in one of the spare upstairs rooms, so it maybe gotten like in the mid to low 50s at its coldest, but usually more in like the low 60s. And I pulled them out maybe like a month or 2 ago or something, and I actually haven't given them any new centipedes. There were a couple in there with them while they were brumating, but it's actually making me think. I should probably go outside today on a warm night and flip some of the stuff in the yard. Maybe grab about a dozen Lithobius from out there. So, Scolicophus are centipede specialists too. A big neotropical guy. Let's see. I'm curious. Ooh. Hey. That's a pretty snake right there. Yeah, finding snakes that eat insects is gonna be, I think, my next frontier. Because I have all these insects, so now I need some snakes to eat them. I've been really enjoying my rough green snakes, and they've been doing pretty well in crickets, but they just love hornworms. And I'm working on a standardized setup for easy mass production of Pyralis, because that is an asset. I know that they can be pesky, but unlike Ford flies, the potential for benefits from an easy-to-breed Lepidopteran in captivity that eats dog food vastly outweigh the negatives I feel that they've brought in general to me. So, Polyxenus, they've been eating well-rotted leaf litter. In the wild, they're eating like lichen and the wood on the sycamore bark. and people find them everywhere. I think Mark Mayer, who likes culturing a lot of weird small stuff here and there, sent me a picture of like a colony of them that was like trash in a parking lot somewhere in Illinois, and they were breeding or like at least aggregating in a like discarded COVID mask, like one of those the blue masks. They were like in the folds and they were like congregated in there. But I do like to sprinkle some fish flakes on there too, just to give a little extra oomph. And the book lice and the couple of springtails that are in there really seem to appreciate that too. So let's see, ringneck snake gang. And yes, walrus, I do have rough greens. There's a woman who bought a group of them from me because I got wild caught ones and I acclimated them, and then I sold a couple of them. Who is doing really well with them, and she's been feeding them hornworms and silkworms and crickets, and they've been doing exceptional for her. She's very diligent. She's treating those snakes extremely well. So I don't necessarily buy the good variety of feeders. They've been quite happy on just crickets here. But they might need UV, and I do want to get my group outside during the summer. It's going to be something where I'm gonna build a wood something to throw them outside. Last year I put them in a huge industrial mesh cage, but I don't think it was enough space for them, or there wasn't enough diversity of space, of three-dimensional places for them. And so this year I'm going to put a little bit more effort into that and throw them out there and load it to the gills with crickets, because my Akita domestica, rural Arizona, are just reproducing like mad, and just see how it goes. Northern population of ringneck snakes too primarily eat soft-bodied inverts, gastropods, annelids. I believe the further south you go, the more amphibians they eat. Yeah, kind of like garters too. There are there's tons of, maybe even hundreds of garter snakes at U of M that go up to the organic garden basically as soon as the weather warms up enough for them to disperse from their overwintering places, and decay snakes too, and they just gorge on worms. They eat nothing but earthworms up there, and they're very healthy, they're very fat, and they have huge litters and all this stuff. So yeah, it might the localized adaptation to food sources is definitely a real thing. So should I keep them all dry? It should be like Tennyson. Since you're in Utah, I would go with the quarter of the substrate moist approach because of your humidity. I think they'd eat soldier fly larvae. They might, but I think that the woman who purchased them from me was telling me that they'll eat waxworm moths as well as waxworms. So I would think they may have more interest in the soldier fly adults, actually. So what substrate do you keep the polyxenos on? I have a mix of peat, kelp meal, blah, blah. They're on coconut fiber, and I have the leaves are kind of wrapped into bundles to provide like the microclimate with the nice flat surfaces they seem to get from bark and in those crevices and stuff. And just around there, I think for some reason I put a paper towel in the corner, just thinking, oh, maybe they'll colonize the folds of it. So yeah, it's very simple. Millipedes on cocoa fiber is crazy. Yeah, but again, they're fine. They seem fine with it. And actually, this will be my last tangent before I wrap up the stream. Actually, but since this is turning into the polyxenos stream, it seems. In my Euthlastoblata abortiva, which came from the extreme southern tip of Texas. The collector, I think he was using a pooter, maybe he was collecting bark of stuff, etc. And in addition to the Euthlastoblata, he sent me 2 polyxenids snuck in, and they're beautiful. I love those things. It's a shame that there were only 2, and it's been so long. I'm pretty sure that it was not a pair. It's probably a same-sex pair, and if it was 2 females, neither of them were probably mated. But they're bigger. They're about twice the size of the ones from here in Michigan, and they have some olive or green markings on them. They're very pretty. And I saw them, and I was just like, I'm just going to throw them with the Euthlastoblata and just see they're found in the same place. He was clearly the Euthlastoblata were happy wherever he was collecting them. So in these from the same area, so just set them up together. And there's in there, I don't know why. I literally don't know why. I mean, maybe I was lazy. I ran out of coconut fiber or something I was going to put on the bottom. But I used just wood pellets like I would use for making substrate, like making the mushroom mycelium mix and stuff like that. I just put in the raw, just the pellets, and then I put a little bit of dressing of mulch and stuff on top of that, and then I put the bar pieces and blah blah blah. And so there's even the pellets, they rehydrate and they dry and they rehydrate, etc. So there's a good matrix of little chambers through there, and it molded, and there were grain mites, and then the predatory mites came through and wiped out all the grain mites, and the roaches are, it's a poop shower, etc. in there. And they're still alive. At least one of them is still alive, and both of them were still alive up until at least like a month and a half ago. And when I was just, looking longingly into my roach enclosure, maybe it was last night or the night before, into the Euthlastoblata abortiva, I saw one of the polyzenids through the side and down in the little matrix of the wood. So it's been eating the mold and the roach poop and the who knows what else. And it's very dry in there except for the back like corner or so, because that's where Euthlastoblata abortiva were found in very dry habitat. And so, hello, Joseph Kim. I think you might be new, so if so, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome to the end of this stream. So yeah, that's I may quickly go out of my way in Destin to smack some palm fronds or something in the hope that the larger Florida species of polyzenid is present there. The one that I've seen like down in Fort Lauderdale. I've seen it in other places in Florida too. But I may go out of my way to just, spread like a white sheet and then just tap something on there and see what falls out and then grab whatever I can and hopefully get some of those larger ones and try to get them going. So, Bastion. Why is that ringing a bell with me? Not abrasion. Not abrasion. Oh, those guys. So, yeah, Satchel sent me a couple of those. A Bastion. And I don't know if they're still alive. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea if they're still alive. I haven't checked the container, but I threw them in with, I received a colony of Armadillidium verneri, and I threw them together because, again, it's like some days it's like I have used 10 faunariums and 5 critter keepers setting stuff up today. I really don't want to set up something else or like put something that has a fair chance of not doing well for me into its own enclosure and remove that from going to something that I need to split or that I really want to work with or whatever. So I put them together. I know I haven't seen them since I set them up. They were happily eating some of the white rot mycelium that I put into the verneri enclosure. So I don't know. Maybe there's babies. I'll try and check those when I do my Isopod work tonight and in the coming days and see if anything happened. But they were probably all adults. They like to dig very deep. Yeah, if I would imagine that they're probably still alive. Have you ever collected gopher beetles? No, I have not. That's a whole other. That is a whole other. Is a whole other thing. I have seen them. Those are pretty common when I go to Florida. I'd seen the little hills and stuff. Alan was telling me about these when we were out in Tampa in the big open fields looking for that population of Arenovega floridensis. I remember Alan pointing them out, or maybe also saying that all the ones that we were seeing that were above the ground were males. Oh, maybe it was something else then. No, then maybe I haven't ever seen gopher beetles. I'm pretty sure those the mounds look pretty familiar. Or is that oh, that's the other thing. That's the thing that Kai was talking about. That supposedly drags the piles of leaves into burrows to feed larvae. They don't dig just 10 feet. Yeah, I imagine maybe you could trick those into making a a nest in a shallower container. Like you can basically convince Macropanesthia to do that, where they just sort of accept that they're now in their bottom burrow, and they don't feel like they have to dig anymore when you put them into an enclosed space like that. I don't know. Kai's the one. Yeah, Kai's the one to ask about that. I would give them a try. Florida Deep Digger Scarab was the one that Alan was telling me about. Pelotropes profundus. Profundus. Yeah, very profound with how deep they dig. So, 20-foot trail. That's crazy. But yeah, anyways, everybody, I'm going to unfortunately wrap the stream up here and say goodbye to everybody for a little over 2 weeks. A little over 2 weeks, everybody. No stream next Thursday. The following Thursday, I'm going to be recovering from the trip and putting things away and getting ready for the auction. But again, we can all look forward to the auction April 1st and 2nd, 10 a.m. Eastern Time to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, I know I said this wasn't going to be like the fall auction. It wasn't going to be as big, but Victor needs a girlfriend, and funds will be nice with a move coming up. So I think I'm gonna go all in, and regardless, I know it's gonna be a great time. It's gonna be a great time. There's a lot of stuff coming available. The spoils of the trip also, for those interested in those kinds of things. And yes, Alan, as Alan points out, we may have a surprise stream. It obviously won't be a wiggle. It won't be a wiggle, but it could be, maybe it'll be even more fun and entertaining than that. You may see us out at Hurricane Creek, and I'll be looking under the little limestone edges for the sewer fairies and trying to catch whatever that genus is and bemoaning the whole situation. And Alan's gonna like look over at me and be like, "Why are you gay?" When I tell him I want to catch the drain flies. So, yeah, it's Allie last. Hello, Allie. You're just at the tail end of the stream, unfortunately. But Alan gets hit by a copperhead, as you tell me. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Man, last time we didn't see any venomous snakes, but it could happen. I think we are. I gotta do a tick check. Oh man, I gotta definitely do good hardcore tick checks this upcoming time. So, but anyways, thank you everybody for joining this Roach Wiggle. Maybe I'll see you next week. If not, I'll see y'all at the auction. And until then, and after the auction, may your cultures ever be bountiful. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.